Welcome to Iraqi Dinar Update, your go-to source for the latest news, expert insights, and real-time developments on Iraq's currency, economy, and financial reforms. Whether you're a long-time investor or just curious about the dinar, you're in the right place. At the heart of global financial discourse this spring, Iraqi Finance Minister Mrs. Taif Sami Mohammed and Central Bank of Iraq Governor Dr. Ali Alaq participated in the annual spring meetings of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, held in Washington, D.C. These high-profile gatherings brought together finance ministers, central bank governors, development officials, and economic experts from around the globe. The aim, as always, was to assess global financial stability, economic growth trajectories, and the fiscal and monetary challenges facing both developing and developed nations. Iraq's delegation attended with the expectation of engaging with multilateral financial institutions on matters crucial to its national development, reforms, investment strategies, public debt sustainability, regional integration, digital transformation, and the broader effort of economic modernization. However, for those closely following the speculative world of currency investing, especially in relation to the Iraqi dinar, the content of these meetings carries an extra layer of anticipation and scrutiny. Yet, despite the hopes of a small but vocal contingent of Iraqi dinar investors and speculative analysts, one topic remained conspicuously absent: the revaluation of the Iraqi currency. Nowhere in the public or private documentation, summary reports, official press releases, or panel discussions was there mention of a no-term currency revaluation or any indication that such a drastic monetary policy shift was under deliberation. This absence speaks volumes about the nature and transparency of these global gatherings and the often misunderstood reality of how decisions are made within the international financial system. The spring meetings are among the most structured, agenda-driven conferences in global finance. The World Bank and IMF operate with a high degree of public visibility and institutional accountability. Their proceedings, though dense and technical, are well documented, with public communiques, press briefings, video recordings of open sessions, and transcripts made available for journalists, academics, analysts, and citizens alike. This transparency is essential to maintaining the trust of member states and ensuring that global economic governance is seen as legitimate, rule-based, and responsive to the needs of both creditor and debtor nations. In short, these are not shadowy rooms filled with whispered deals. Rather, they are institutional platforms governed by protocols, debate, and evidence-based policymaking. The assumption that something as monumental as a currency revaluation would be discussed in secrecy or pushed through quietly undermines the credibility of the institutions involved and misunderstands the nature of macroeconomic policy reform. The IMF, in particular, is a data-driven, policy-focused organization that publishes its Article 4 consultations, staff reports, and macroeconomic outlooks with rigorous detail. If Iraq were on the verge of implementing a revaluation or redenomination of its currency, this would not be a backroom secret. It would be front and center in the IMF's published assessments, likely involving prior consultations, projections on inflation, monetary aggregates, foreign reserve impacts, and a plan for exchange rate transition, all of which would be outlined in the context of Iraq's broader economic framework. Moreover, a currency revaluation is not simply a matter of national will or desire. It is a deeply strategic move that requires months, if not years, of groundwork. It involves rebalancing internal monetary policy with external trade realities. It calls for adequate foreign reserves, inflation control, exchange rate flexibility or adjustments, fiscal discipline, and most importantly, a rationale grounded in economic fundamentals. No reputable financial institution or sovereign government takes such decisions lightly, especially not in countries emerging from decades of war, sanctions, and structural economic challenges. Iraq, while advancing in some areas of reform, still faces significant hurdles in areas like public sector dependency, corruption, investment climate uncertainties, and banking sector underdevelopment. These are precisely the topics that dominate the agenda at meetings like the one held in Washington, not headline-grabbing currency moves. This is not to suggest that a future currency revaluation is impossible. Monetary policy is not static. Nations do, over time, transition from fixed or managed regimes to more flexible arrangements. Some, like Vietnam, have gradually allowed more exchange rate flexibility as part of long-term financial liberalization. Iraq, if it continues on a path of sound macroeconomic reform, may in time reach a point where exchange rate policy becomes a more active tool in supporting economic objectives. But such transitions are signposted well in advance, often involving pilot programs, public education campaigns, legislative amendments, and coordination with external partners. It is not something that would be decided or hinted at in a corner meeting, let alone remain unacknowledged at the very conferences that shape global monetary consensus. In this light, one must challenge the narrative that there are secret meetings, hidden agendas, or whispered decisions being made behind closed doors. The IMF and World Bank have spent decades cultivating openness, and their credibility depends on consistency, predictability, and public trust. If a currency revaluation were truly on the horizon, the evidence would be unmistakable. This doesn't diminish the importance of Iraq's monetary future. On the contrary, it highlights just how serious and careful such decisions must be. Any substantial move in currency value must be aligned with national interest, regional trade realities, and international obligations. It must be well-timed, well-communicated, and grounded in the trust of both domestic and foreign economic actors. The credibility of the Central Bank of Iraq and its ability to maintain financial stability hinges on avoiding reckless speculation and focusing instead on reform implementation, capacity building, and improving institutional integrity. In sum, the recent participation of Iraq's finance and banking leadership in the IMF and World Bank spring meetings was a critical step in reaffirming the country's commitment to economic modernization and international cooperation. But it also served as a clear reminder to observers, especially those hoping for abrupt changes in currency valuation, that the path to transformation is one of deliberation, discipline, and transparency. There is no secret cabal determining the fate of the dinar in hotel basements or closed-door sessions. There are policymakers, analysts, and advisors working through complex economic issues in broad daylight, under institutional oversight, and with the shared goal of creating a more stable and prosperous Iraq. Thanks for tuning into Iraqi Dinar Update. If you found this content helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a beat on Iraq's evolving financial landscape. Stay informed, and stay ready.